For Warner Brothers' move was a self-serving, diabolical, underhanded, backstabbing move that they did to all of their co-financing companies, to their talent, to their directors, to their partners. It was a despicable, backstabbing move that has pissed off everybody in the industry. And make no mistake about it, Jarrell, they did not do this for the fans. They didn't do this because of COVID. The reason they did it, and then the reason they did it quietly, like a cowardly little thief in the middle of the night, and snuck it out into a public release without telling the financing companies that worked with them, without telling the co-production companies that work with them, without telling the directors that made the movies, without telling the actors that starred in the movies, without telling the agents that represent the movies. The reason Warner Brothers did it like a cowardly little sniveling jerk in the middle of the night was because they knew everything they were doing it based on. Everything. This was not about the fans. This was not because of COVID. It wasn't. Every one of the filmmakers said, hey, we are totally cool pushing our movies off another 8 months to a year. Denis Villeneuve said in his article that he wrote for Variety, I had no problem. I agreed with the move. When Warner Brothers moved my movie that I directed off almost a full year, I was totally in support of that move. This isn't about COVID. This is about Warner Brothers desperately trying to salvage a failed launch of HBO Max to try to catch up with Disney Plus. If they had any honor, they would have sat down and discussed with the interested parties involved. They would have sat down and talked with Legendary Pictures, the company that funded the production of Godzilla vs. Kong, the company that funded the production of Dune. If they had any honor, and this wasn't some backstabbing, thief in the knife, cowardly little jerk move, they would have sat down with the people who actually put up the money for those movies and said, hey, we should talk about what we're going to do with this movie. But they didn't, and there's a reason they didn't. Because they knew they were going to face lawsuits that might stop them from making the announcements, and they thought, like the cowardly little jerks they are, at least in this one particular, and remember, I'm a big fan of Warner Brothers. I have personal friends who are well positioned at Warner Brothers, and I know a couple of them ain't happy with this move either. They backstab the people they're in business with, and don't buy the lie. Don't buy this lie that we did it for the fans. It has nothing to do with that. Don't buy the lie that, oh, you know, in response to this COVID situation. No. That's why that excuse works and is legitimate for why you move the movies. Sure. And there are some movies like Wonder Woman 84 that you've already moved multiple times and has already been delayed by like up to a year already. We just got to get this thing out. I think everybody involved would understand that. But the more I'm hearing from people who work inside of Warner Brothers, and the more I'm hearing from people who work in the industry as a whole, and the more I'm hearing from members of the DGA, I haven't heard from Denis Villeneuve, obviously, but I've heard from people I know who are part of the Directors Guild of America, the more and more of a clear picture that's being painted here. Warner Brothers backstabbed and snuck behind everybody's back to pull a PR move that is now blowing up in their faces. And they double-crossed a lot of people that worked with them in good faith. I mean, that's why you got Timothée Chalamet hosting Saturday Night Live and at the close of the show rocking out a Legendary Pictures sweatshirt, not a Warner Brothers sweatshirt, a Legendary Pictures. He was sending a very clear message. We're all on the side of Legendary Pictures, who's going to be suing Warner Brothers now. You don't treat people like that. For Warner Brothers to not give a heads up, let alone looping Legendary in, the company that paid for 75% of the production of Dune, to not even loop them into the conversation? Oh, dude, that amateur. Somebody puts up 75% of the money to make that movie, and you don't even loop them into the conversation? You don't give them a heads up that you're thinking about that, and they don't find out about this till the day you announce it to the world? Dude, don't even get me started. Don't even get me started with this. I stand with, because I don't listen. I get some people feeling like, oh, I like the idea of being able to watch the movie at home. That's one thing. But this, I stand with Warner Brothers. They acted, the underhanded, backstabbing, cowardly, little sniveling jerk way they handled it is, no, I'm not a fan of that part. Not a fan of that part at all. That's just my take on it. There's a reason why everybody else in the industry is really pissed off at Warner Brothers right now. And they just treated their partners badly. Wonder Woman's a different thing, because I get it. And there would be some other movies that I would get that too, but that's not what this is about. Don't buy the lie. Do not buy the lie that this was for the fans. No, it wasn't. It's because you're failing with your launch of HBO Max, which I love HBO Max, by the way. If I had to pick between HBO Max and Disney Plus right now today, I'd take HBO Max. I think they're the better service right now today. I think they're fantastic. I'm a huge fan of HBO Max, but they botched their launch. They've fallen way behind Disney Plus. Disney Plus has lapped them already. They have more than twice the number of subscribers that they do already. This was all a desperate attempt to try to catch up with Disney Plus. Don't let anybody try to convince you otherwise. Well, I would argue that HBO is not a more popular name than Warner Brothers. HBO, I believe, only ever had, but I don't know that they ever had more than 30-something million subscribers. Number of HBO subscribers. Let me just look this up here. 38 million. And that's including HBO Max. Okay? So HBO Max, all combined, like if you put it all together, they have 38 million subscribers. That's less than half of the size of Disney Plus. I would contend, while HBO is a recognized name, it is not as recognized or as honored or revered as the century-old staple in Hollywood, Warner Brothers, with all the prestige that it carries. And again, the big problem with naming it HBO Max was it created a lot of initial confusion. Because somebody already had HBO, so what's HBO Max? We got HBO, with HBO Go, we got HBO Now, and now we've got HBO Max. It just created a lot of confusion. Then they botched their launch by not being on Roku or Amazon Fire Stick. They've corrected the Amazon Fire Stick one, and they will correct the Roku one at some point. But they botched their launch with that. Then they were, come get HBO Max and watch all the Harry Potter movies. And then, within a week or two that HBO Max launched, they lost the Harry Potter movies, so they're not on there anymore. I mean, they did so many things wrong from a marketing point of view. And I think the name of it was one of the problems. And again, HBO Max right now, other than Hulu, HBO Max is probably my favorite streaming service. I mean, in a year, it'll probably be Disney Plus once they start launching all these new properties. But as of right now, I think HBO Max is the gold standard as far as quality content goes. I think they're the best right now, but they have blown a lot. And I really think, maybe not necessarily Warner Brothers Plus, but I don't think the name HBO Max helped their cause. I think it hurt them in the long run. I really do.